Hey, it's your girl, Alaizah Lizana. Let me talk to y'all. Before I get started on my episode for tonight, a special episode, because I was going to do an episode on a different topic, but when I seen this the other day, it really burnt me up. Enough is enough, and I had to talk about it. Enjoy this song first. It's God, We Need You Now. Because God, the world, America, we need you now, today, so badly. This world is so full of hate and strife. It's so sad. Enjoy this song, and then I'll start my episode. Pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the praise Jesus, hallelujah. Amen. Amen. For one day, I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now. The truth is hard to swallow, just digest it. Listen to this man. Deflected by some breaking news. Oh, we just accept it. Expected just to fall in line and follow their perspective. Don't question their objective, but I got a lot of questions. How these kids molested, but nobody's been arrested. Why ain't they been arrested? Where the children are protected, so I'm fighting all these going on with that? Foreign and domestic. All this sex trafficking of children, and nothing's been done about it, and it's still going on today. So sad. And they create things like Uber Teen for teenagers to ride in public transportation by themselves. With all this going on in the world today, and you want to put your child in something by themselves with strangers? See the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you. We've been dancing with the devil way too long. I know it's fun, but get ready to pay your dues. Oh God, come back home. This crazy world is filled with liars and abusers. We need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now. Has become my favorite song. I've played it over and over again because I love the message. It's the truth. We need God right now. Everybody has pushed him away. They pushed him out of America. They pushed him out of the world, saying, we don't need you no more, God. We got what we need, so we don't need you no more. Wrong. We'll always need God. Always. We'll always need him. Every day of our life. We'll never not need him. And I know there's people saying, oh, you're transgender. How can you say that? Because God loves me. I'm a human being that he created. He created me transgender as a test to bigots in this world, to see who's a hateful, judgmental bigot, and to see who's the real deal, a real, true, non-judgmental, loving Christian that knows that God created everybody, including gays and trans. We are not of the devil. We're not an abomination. We don't wish to influence children or people with our ways. I wouldn't wish what I went through on any child. It was rough being a transgender female growing up. So I wouldn't dare wish that on any child to go through. That you should at least be about 12 or 13 years old before you begin to even understand that, maybe. But under 12 years old, 11, 10, 9, 8 on down, no. No, absolutely not. They don't need to know or to be told. Just let them figure it out for themselves, like I did. Nobody told me anything. I figured it out all on my own. Very intelligent child. Very intelligent. Figured it all out on my own. Well, enough of that. I'll get into that in another episode, another video later on. This episode I wanted to do, I call it a special episode because, again, I was going to talk about a different topic, but I could not let this go. This is something I had to talk about. Give me a moment while I grab... Well, I had a paper with some stuff written down on it that I don't need. My memory's kind of okay in some moments. Sometimes it's not. I'm getting old. 40 years old, so old as hell. Or at least I feel like it. Anyways, I want to talk about the Juneteenth holiday and how I noticed that 19 different states, the first state I noticed that doesn't recognize Juneteenth as a federal or state holiday was Mississippi, the state of Mississippi. And then I looked into it furthermore and seen that there are 19 total states. 19 total states that do not recognize Juneteenth as a federal or state holiday. Like they don't recognize that federal holiday as a state holiday for them. They don't. And then you have 3 states that they don't recognize it, but they don't ignore it. They observe it, like an observance. And that's California and 2 other states. I'm not sure off memory hand because I had them written down on a list. But there's, back to the 19 states. There's 19 states that don't recognize it. They don't view an observance of it or anything whatsoever. Like to them, it's a holiday that doesn't exist. And that is disgusting. I am not okay with that. When I seen that and read that, especially about Mississippi not recognizing it as a state holiday, are you serious? The state of Mississippi should be the first one. The first one. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The first one that should have acknowledged Juneteenth as a state holiday. Mississippi is one of the southern states, one of the top southern states out of the southern states that encouraged slavery. Like they were all for slavery. They had, Mississippi was full of slaves. Like the South was full of slaves, yes, had a lot of slavery going on. But Mississippi, I feel from what I've read and heard, Mississippi was the biggest state on being okay and basically approving slavery, being approved of slavery. Sorry, I'm not the best with words. I apologize for that. Still new at making these videos, and each time I hope I get better. But back to what I was talking about. Mississippi was the state of the most approval rate, the highest approval rate. Mississippi was the highest approval rate on slavery. That's why it wasn't until 2013, I can't remember the exact month and day, but it wasn't till somewheres in, I think, mid-2013, I know it was 2013 for sure, Mississippi did not end slavery, did not officially end, slavery until 2013. So, after it was abolished, all of those years ago, you finally now, all these decades later, decide to officially on official record in slavery for the state of Mississippi. The governor would be the person in charge of all this, because the governor is like the president, when it comes to a state. The president of the United States, well, the governor is kind of like the state's version of a president. So our governor is Tate Reeves. So therefore, it is his responsibility to make sure that things are upheld in this state as it is in other states and all around the United States. And now to know that Mississippi doesn't recognize or even observe Juneteenth as a holiday in any form, meaning they're ignoring its existence. Mississippi's basically saying Juneteenth doesn't exist. We don't believe in that. Like we don't believe in that as a holiday. Do you realize how racist that makes Mississippi seem? Like Mississippi has a reputation for being racist and backwards as it is. You've just made that reputation much deeper, much stronger. Like if there were people before that they didn't think that Mississippi was a racist state, I'm pretty sure they definitely do now. And that's disgusting. That is so disgusting that Mississippi, out of all states, please hear me when I say this. I'm not taking away from any other states. Like every single state, all 50 states, should recognize Juneteenth or any type of federal holiday that celebrates something, or any of the sorts, should be recognized. But especially Juneteenth, something that recognizes the celebration of the official end to slavery, the last group of slaves that were notified that they were free, that they were no longer slaves, that slavery is over. These slaves that, these African American slaves that picked cotton, that makes these t-shirts and blankets and sheets and toilet paper and all the things that cotton is made of that people today use, including you white people. Definitely you white people. Definitely white people. There's other things that African Americans are responsible for that is not recognized, and that's all of the loads of white women back in the day that didn't know a thing about cooking. Like the African American people cooked their food. A lot of them wasn't very good at raising kids. They're African American slaves, housekeeper, maid, nanny, of the sort you called them. They raised those white people's kids. All you racist white people, your granddaddy and your grandmammy was raised by their parents' black slaves. The food that they ate that was cooked by those African American slaves. Nobody thinks about that anymore. And everybody knows that. We all know that. We all know down to the true core that African American people in slavery did a lot of things. Like they had a hard, rough job. Talking about constantly working out in the heat. Yes, African American slaves. They constantly worked out in the heat. Water, ice water. What is ice water? They didn't know what ice water was. They didn't get to have that privilege a lot. And when they did, they had to do awful things to earn it. So people in Mississippi, mainly the white people, you white government, Tate Reeves, our Governor Reeves, yes, I'm talking to you mainly, coming at you mainly, are disgusting and seem so racist on the fact that you're in this state that should definitely recognize it and observe it, celebrate it, advertise it all over the state of Mississippi, everywhere, being, thankful to the African American slaves that were enslaved by your white ancestors. And the list goes on with the things that they did. It's not just what I mentioned, there's more. Mississippi itself, these houses that people live in today, some of them that are still standing, or even if you want to go into the notion of that all these houses are probably been torn down and destroyed by Katrina and nada. Okay, let's talk about all the historic buildings that are still here. Who you think built those historic buildings? Who you think built that historic post office that's standing there? Who you think built that historic city hall, or this historic building, or that historic building? Who you think built all those buildings back in the day? Not white people. It was the black. I'm sorry. I try to veer away from saying that. I try to always be kind and respectful. Those African American slaves that were enslaved back in those days, they built that. They built all that. Mississippi is what it is today because all of the years of slaves, African American slaves, that constantly built Mississippi up. So little Mr. Grand Dragon of the pillowcase and sheet wearing cult, maybe you should think about that in the back of your head when you enter a historic building or when you enter any part of Mississippi. Before you come out with racist hate, you should take a moment to think, African Americans were slaves in Mississippi back in the day. And what did slaves do? Work. They worked. And what work did they do? They built places. All the places that we're in today. And like I said, the historic buildings. They cooked for white people. They sewed for white people. Everything they did, everything that white people today know how to do, they know how to do it because their white ancestors were taught how to do it by the African American slaves back in the day. The white woman that knows how to cook, that knows how to sew, iron, wash clothes, do this, do that, that knows how to be a woman, period, a wife, a mother, and all of that stuff is because of the African American slave she had that was her maid or housekeeper or nanny, per se, is how you put it. It's because of that. Do you think a lot of these white women back in the day raised their children? The men definitely didn't. But do you think a lot of the white women even raised their own children? No. A lot of them were too busy out spending their husband's money or living the high life, being members of the high society, thinking that they're so entitled and privileged because they're white when they're not. Because white people take a lot of credit for a lot of things that they didn't do in the first place. Like all of this stuff being built up in Mississippi, a lot of white people take credit for. No, they didn't build it. Their African American slaves that they had enslaved are the ones that built it. Just like the United States of America. White people didn't build it. The Native Americans built it all up. White people came here and stole it and put their flag in the soil and claimed it as theirs and said that they built it themselves to make themselves look good and all high and mighty. That's why all these old white men, politicians in the government think they're so high and mighty and sit on such a high throne like they're God or something like that. And we recently had a politician that was president a while back that was like that. Yes, I've made comments about him being forgiven and him being reformed, and if I had a chance, I would be his vice president, and I still mean that. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump is a human being who, yes, is a very hateful man and has done hateful, horrible things, but again, he is a human that deserves a second chance and deserves someone out there that can reform him, change his heart, make him a different person, make him a better person. It can be done. There's many of people in the world that has had so much hate in their heart, and God was able to send someone into their life that just changed them like that. Believe me, I know from personal experience. I've always believed in God, and I've always had a love for people and been kind. But for years, I had a lot of anger in my heart, a lot of anger, resentment, bitterness, saltiness. That cost me a lot in my life. And I regret that. And that's why I do this. That's why I make these videos. So I can make it up to God by spreading positive words, positive knowledge, talking about God and his son Jesus Christ and the Mother Mary, his wife. And I'll get into that more on my beliefs on that with God, the Mother Mary, and their son Jesus Christ when I do my episode on religion, which will be coming up soon. I don't know when, because I never like to say that I'm guaranteed to do a topic when at any given moment I can change my mind like I did now. This episode was actually supposed to be me talking about transposers, but I decided to, actually no, I'm sorry, scratch that. That is my TikTok live. I'm going to do this episode for my YouTube channel series on my YouTube channel was supposed to be about me talking about people and in general of their actions and their ways and how they act hateful towards someone, and they use God as a tool to justify their hate and their actions against a certain person or people. And that's something that I will probably talk about in my next episode. Again, I don't guarantee for sure, because I can change my mind and do a different topic. But that more likely will be the next episode. But anyway, sorry for rambling on. Back to the rest of what I want to say on the Juneteenth holiday issue. People, please sit down and think to yourself, especially you white people. Sit down and think to yourself. Google it. Look it up on Google. Or go to the library, look it up in history books. And you'll know the truth. That African American people are responsible for a lot of positive things in Mississippi. Yes, there are African American people today that are involved in gangs and a lot of gang activity, gun violence, and all that. But so is white people, so is Mexican people, so is Indian people, Chinese people. There's gangs in every race and color. So just because gangs are mostly African American populated, and how do I say this respectfully? Just because there's a reputation for African American people being heavily populated in gang communities and criminal communities and all that, does not erase what their African American ancestors that were slaves. It doesn't erase the good that they did. Just like the things that Mexicans do that are criminal or bad, or Asians or white people, the bad things they do, it doesn't erase the good things that the good white people did, or the good Mexican people did, or the good Asian people did, or the good Middle Eastern people did. What the bad ones did does not and should not erase what the good ones did. And in this case, with Juneteenth, what most African American people do today, what Mississippi feels they have that issue with, which they respectfully do, that does not erase the years of oppression that these African American slaves went through and had to endure, and everything that they had to endure, down to cruelty and cruelty with words, verbal cruelty and physical cruelty. Verbal cruelty as far as, like I said, words, that ugly N word that they had to be called all the time. Just imagine as a white person walking around and your name is Sam, but somebody calling you a hunky or a cracker all the time in every sentence, when at the end of the day your name is Sam, not hunky or cracker. Well, African American people felt the same way. Their name was Paul or Mildred, not the N word that they were called every single time and every single sentence that was spoken to them. So disgusting. And white people still use it today, especially in Mississippi. I've noticed, especially in northern Mississippi, white people up there, they still use it a lot, and they are really, really super racist. And it's disgusting. Any form of hate is disgusting. Being racist against someone because of their color or nationality, or however you may, feel to put it, and discrimination through, or hatred through discrimination because of a person's sexual orientation or gender, or because they were born trans, or they were born this, or they were born that. All this hate and strife in the world. And it can begin to go away, and our land, our country, our world can begin to heal if we first start with bringing God back into the world, back into America. And that's the first step to eradicating all of this hate and strife in this world. Because the longer people block God out of their lives and out of the world and out of our country of America, the longer that people do that, the longer the hate and the strife is going to go on, and the deeper it's going to get. Because I hate to say this, it's only going to get worse. Because it always gets worse before it gets better. And it's going to get better. It's going to get better for us. Black brothers and I'm sorry. Sorry again. African American brothers and sisters, it's going to get better. I'm so sorry that there's so much hate in the world casted on y'all. I am so sorry for that. And here's to me helping to make it better. That's my goal with these videos, these episodes, is to spread knowledge and words and bring awareness, and also bring people back to God or closer to God, or bring people to God who've never known Him. And also to help eliminate the hate and strife in the world with all the racism and discrimination and all that bad stuff. Because the most important thing that we all need to remember is that God loves us all. We are all cut from the same cloth. We all have the same color red blood flowing through our veins. Flowing through our veins. We all have the same human heart. We all have lungs with air. And people need to start remembering that again. Because if we don't make some positive changes in this world, God is going to say Himself. It won't be someone like me or someone else saying enough is enough. It's going to get to a point where it's going to get so bad that God's going to say, enough is enough. I have had enough. I have seen enough. I have heard enough. Enough of the hate. Enough of the strife. Enough of the cruelty. Enough of everything. It's time for change. Or God is going to say enough is enough, and He is going to end our world just like that, with no warning. Could be a major flood, could be a major 5-in-1 hurricane. We don't know what it could end up being. But He can very well destroy our world in a drop of a dime, in a drop of a pin, whatever the proper saying is for it. Sorry, it's not something I say a lot. But yeah. He can end up in an instant saying enough is enough. I've seen enough. I've heard enough. And I've had it. And when that day comes, I just pray that He has mercy on us. I really, really do. I pray that He has mercy on us. Because this world today is sad. It really is. America today it saddens me very much. Especially these different states with their different ways, recognizing what they want to recognize, observing what they want to observe. Such as Mississippi with the Juneteenth holiday. I tell you one thing, I wish to God, I pray to God that I get the chance, whether it be this election season or the next election season or somewhere in time, hopefully very, very soon, that I can get put in office. Because I can tell you one thing, on a serious 100%, I'm very serious. Like I'm not crazy. I know it seems crazy. Oh, who is this person that, oh my goodness, they're trans, and oh my goodness, like they're not important. We don't even know who they are. Wanting to be vice president, wanting to be in office. Yeah, because I'm someone that's had enough. That I've seen enough of this bull crap in the world. All this hate and strife. All this bull crap. All these people suffering because no one in government is taking proper actions to do anything right. They think they're doing things to help us, but they're not. And people, these different politicians in government need to start being held accountable. Like, for instance, with the observance and recognition of holidays, any state that doesn't, let's make an example. Like with Mississippi, if I were in office in Washington D.C., like Congress, or vice president, or any type of office over there in Washington D.C., I would introduce a bill that would create a law holding the governors of the state accountable for not recognizing or observing a holiday. So, an example, with Tate Reeves, if I was in Congress, Senate, or Senate or Congress, the Senate or the House, sorry, the House of Representatives or the Senate, the entire Congress, SCOTUS, if I was in office in Washington, D.C., I would introduce a law or introduce a bill that would bring to law that any state's governor that refuses to recognize a federal holiday, Juneteenth or any of the other holidays, that if they refuse to recognize, not observe, no, we don't want the observe. If it's a federal holiday, it needs to be recognized. Screw observance. If it's a federal holiday, it needs to be observed. It needs to be recognized. I'm sorry. It needs to be recognized. Not just observed, it needs to be recognized. That's what I meant to say. It needs not to just be observed, but it needs to be recognized. And so I think, in my opinion, that a governor, a state governor, if they do not recognize a federal holiday as their state's holiday, they should be removed from office. That simple. Like, you should get a warning. Everyone deserves a warning. Yes, you get a warning. But if you ignore the warning and still go about your ways because, oh, you're governor and it's your state and you'll recognize what you want to, whether it's a federal holiday or not, it shouldn't go that way. That shouldn't be the attitude. It's you're the governor, and it's your job as the governor to make sure your state recognizes all federal holidays, including Juneteenth, because Juneteenth is a federal holiday that deserves much recognition, especially in the state of Mississippi. And so again, if I was in the House of Representatives or the Senate, the White House, Washington, D.C., if I was in that kind of office or a position of power, I guess is how I could put it. If I was in that type of position, I would create a bill that could, or establish a bill that could create a law to where any governor, any state's governor in any of the 50 states, if they refuse to recognize any of the federal holidays as their state's holiday, after they've been giving a warning, because everybody deserves a warning, everybody deserves a first chance, everybody deserves a second chance too, but in some instances it should be, you have one chance, which is your warning. This is your warning. And if you ignore the warning and you still refuse to do what has been federally recognized, I guess in this case, we'll say federally recognized because I'm talking about government, you should be removed from office. So therefore, the fact that Governor Tate Reeves does not recognize Juneteenth as a state holiday in the state that should definitely recognize it the most above every other state, the fact that he does not recognize it in this state shows he is not fit for office and needs to be removed immediately. He needs to be impeached, fired, removed immediately. Like, the fact that he even got elected governor again blows my mind. After he was all over the news of being involved with Brett Favre and Ted DiBiase Jr. and the other fella that stole all of that money during the whole COVID ordeal, when we got all that COVID money. So the fact that he got elected governor again blows my mind so hard. But now, in the fact that he's still being allowed to remain as our state's governor, knowing he is refusing to recognize a federal holiday as our state's holiday, and they still got him in office, shows that there's a lot more racist people than we thought. A lot more racist people than we thought. And that is so sad that there is so many racist people that exist in this world. So many people full of hate in their heart. All the people I see on social media that bully people and spread so much hate. That's why I don't get on X, or dark Twitter as I call it.